The beloved young adult fantasy series Percy Jackson and the Olympians has been adapted into yet a new format as it's now being streamed on Disney Plus at the time of this recording. Yet, for all the praise that it's gotten and how well it stayed true to the source material, and as many people have been saying, it is what fans should have gotten years ago when the original movies was released, or rather in place of the original movies, the reactionaries are having a normal one and causing controversy that, well, we'll get into that. Hey everyone, my name's Christian Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Disney Plus series. Now, this series is very, very good. One of my best friends is a huge fan of this series, and he's been hyping it up since forever, like since it was announced. We went and watched through. I actually read the first book, and I also started reading the graphic novels because I don't read real books now, but I like comics well enough, so I'll read those. I just can't get into reading. It takes too long for anything to happen. I can't do. I can't bring myself to like sit there and actually read. But that's a me thing. The books, from everything that I've heard from people, are very good, and I've liked the graphic novel adaptations as well. Um, with that said, I've been hearing nothing but positive things for people that actually enjoy this series. It was great when I saw this series with my buddy. We got some friends together. We had this like whole marathon where we watched the first 4 episodes in a row. We had all this blue food because that's like a thing with Percy Jackson. If you know, you know. If you watch the show, they didn't talk about why they do it in the show, but if you're familiar with the series of Percy Jackson, you'll know why blue food is a big thing for his character. It was just a fun time. My friends and I, we watched the show. Yet, there's a character here that a lot of people have taken issue with. It's not the main character, Percy, and it's not even the satyr guide of his, Grover. It is instead Annabeth. Now, take a wild guess as to why people might be mad at Annabeth. If you guessed racism, you're correct. So we have this tweet. The Percy Jackson News Twitter account, which I don't think I think it's a fan account. They they tweeted that this actress named Leah Jeffries is going to be playing Annabeth. Now this was a while ago, but of course now that the show's actually come out, people are still bitching about it. So we'll get into it here. So the person has, right. The truth is, she should have never been allowed to step foot in the audition room. DEI requirements, especially from woke Disney, has effectively eliminated casting calls featuring specific physical descriptions, which should be considered vital. So, here's the thing. If you want to argue, and I would agree, that Annabeth does not look like what she does. Her character depiction doesn't stay true to the source material. I would agree because originally she looks like this. She is depicted even in the books, like not just in the graphic novel and stuff, but like in the book she's drawn. She's described in the book as a blonde girl with gray eyes, so on and so forth. Right, here's what she looks like in the graphic novel. Not the best art in the first graphic novel, by the way. I'm not sure what this is, but these are all different like variations on the character. We have the original thing. CHB, that's like, I think Camp Half-Blood, and MC. I don't know what MC would be. I'm sure my friend would know, but in any case, so if you want to say, okay, well, this doesn't look like that, I would agree. And if you want to say, okay, it's annoying that they didn't stay true to the source material and this character doesn't look like what they do, I agree. However, I've talked about this before when it comes to race-swapping characters in general. For one, if you're going to make that argument, I want you to be consistent. Because here's how you know these people are bullshitting. You're right. She doesn't look the way that she does in the source material. But you know what? Is this it? Nope. Neither does Percy. I personally, I don't like the fact, I don't hate it, it's not the end of the world, but I am not a fan of the fact that none of these characters look the way that they were originally depicted as. Now, the show absolutely, and Annabeth's casting has the author's blessing, and we'll get to that in a moment here. But if you want to make the argument and say, well, these characters like Grover here, this is what Grover looks like, and this is what Grover looks like, keep getting that, in the show, no, he doesn't look the way he does in the book or the graphic novel or any of that. You're correct with all of that. And if you want to make that argument and say, well, it's annoying, or in my case, it bums me out, I'm with you. I wish these characters would look the way that they originally were depicted as well. When it comes to adaptations, I'm a bit of a purist. If you were to ask me what my perfect adaptation of any piece of media is, I want a full print to screen adaptation of a book, of a movie, all these different things. Now, I've talked about this before in regards to why representation is important and things of that nature, but that's not what we're talking about here. I want to talk about and kind of point out the inconsistency, because these people will cry about Annabeth being race swapped, which I understand, but my issue is this. It's not that she isn't white. She doesn't look like she does here. However, notice how they don't complain about her being like this in the original movie, or Grover still being black. Why? Because a lot of these people don't know what she actually looked like. They aren't actually familiar with the source material. They're at best familiar with this and the second movie where Annabeth actually was blonde. You can't really see it that well here. Let me see if I can get a better image for you here. So she did actually dye her hair blonde to be I keep fucking to be oh fuck. Whatever. To be more like the book. And if you want to make that argument and say, okay, well, these characters should look more like that, I agree. But why are you stopping at Annabeth? Why are you stopping at the white woman who was replaced by a black girl, and not mentioning that Grover wasn't originally cast as a black person? And for that matter, Percy is supposed to be blonde, or is supposed to have dark hair. Percy is depicted as having black hair and I believe black straight hair even, and green eyes. Now, you can even see here, emerald green eyes. Now, I'm not going to be too picky about the eyes, right? Because that's something that you can't necessarily change. I mean, you could wear contacts, but even in Harry Potter, Harry was supposed to have green eyes, and they did give Daniel Radcliffe green contacts, but he couldn't. He didn't want to keep them in, so they just were like, okay, fine, he'll have blue eyes. Even though the actress in the film where they say, oh, you have your mother's eyes, well, her eyes are green because Harry's were supposed to be green. It's a whole thing. Point is, if you want to make that point and say, okay, I would prefer if it stayed more true to the source material and how these characters look, I would agree with you. But this is how I know it's bullshit. Because they're only mad about this. They're only mad about this. They're not mad about this. And look, I'm not mad, but I am annoyed that Percy's blonde. He's not, like, he's white. I don't care that he's white. I care that he's blonde. Percy Jackson, right here, does that look like blonde hair to you? No. Percy Jackson is not blonde. Annabeth is blonde. Percy Jackson is not blonde. You know who else is blonde? In the book? Sorry. I wanted to do all this in one, as few tabs as I could here. Luke. This is what Luke is like in the book. This is Luke in the show. I thought it was funny because I remember watching it with my friends, and I said, I was like, it's kind of like they swapped Percy and Luke's hair colors. You know, to me, if anything, Luke looks more like Percy, at least book Percy, and Percy looks more like Luke, at least because of the hair color. I think they could have, I mean, he could have dyed his hair or something if they wanted to go that route as well. But the point is, I get it, I understand, and I agree with the critique that, or rather the sentiment that this isn't, these characters don't look the way that they are supposed to according to the source material, and it does annoy me. Now, I don't think it should deter you from seeing the entire show or anything like that, because it is an incredible show. I mean, it has a 7.4 on IMDb right now. I'm not sure if I can see what it has on like Rotten Tomatoes or something. I mean, I can look it up real quick. Yeah, I mean, it's sitting at a 96. Oh, come on, fuck off. Really? Dude, you're not even gonna give it. Wait. Okay, well, we're not gonna. Thank you. Okay. Um, everything doesn't want. Okay, real quick on this, by the way. I really hate how, like, websites have caught on to ad blockers now, and they're all like, "Oh, please get rid of your ad. Let us show ads," and then you do, and then they're just throwing a ton of ads and pop-ups at you and shit. It's like, well, no wonder I didn't want fucking ads. Christ. Anyway, just a but no, it's sitting at a 96% on Tomato Meter and an 83% with audience score. That's really good. And I wouldn't be surprised if this got review bombed to an extent because of racists anyway. But my stance on this show in general is I really liked it. I saw it with my buddy. I'm watching every new episode with my friend because, again, he's a big Percy Jackson fan, so I'm sharing that experience with him. I really liked episode 1, 2, 3 was really good, especially what they ended up doing with Medusa's story. I'm not going to spoil any of this because it's a fairly new show. I liked 4 a lot. It's funny these are all top rated. I did not like episode 5 personally. I thought it was very, I don't know. To me, it was kind of boring and it kind of meandered a bit. Not my cup of tea. I'm very much looking forward to episode 6. I know it's out. I haven't seen it yet. Again, no spoilers, and I'm looking forward to the rest as well. But again, I just wanted to give that little, thing just to say. But again, like, I get it, and I agree, and I look at it and I say, well, it does bum me out a little bit that these characters don't look the way that they did in the original depicted material, but like, so many of them don't. And again, I understand, like, getting annoyed about that. I totally get that, and I respect that because I'm with you. But it doesn't ruin the whole thing for me, and I certainly wouldn't say, oh, they never should have auditioned. Like, that's ridiculous. Now, I will say, I think there is a bit of a problem where, I shouldn't say a bit of a problem, but something that does annoy me personally is that we have gotten to a point, it seems, where actors are more so playing themselves in a lot of movies. I mean, you can see this a lot with, like, Ryan Reynolds, for example, which, as great as he is, you can't deny that he's basically just playing himself whenever he plays a character. But like, a lot of like actors and stuff, a lot of people these days, a lot of entertainment is like, the character and the that they're supposed to play is being changed to fit the actor rather than the actor fitting the character. Now, I, again, personally think that if you're casting for a specific person, yeah, I think that the look should be important. But again, I want to be clear about this. It bugs me that Percy's a blonde in the show, and it bugs me that Annabeth was a brunette in the first movie, even though, in my opinion, the first movie was much better than the second movie, and Alexandra Daddario looks a lot better as a brunette, but that's, my personal thing on this. I really hope, and I made a little comment about this, where I'll just share this with you here. I really wish and hope we can have better conversations about this in the future. I don't personally like changing things about characters' appearance, such as skin or hair color. Percy should have black hair, for example. However, I understand that things will always change in adaptations, and even if it's not exactly how I like it, I can still learn to enjoy it for what it is. I'm sure there are many people like me who don't take issue with the race swap on a political level, but are annoyed and bummed out when a character in an adaptation looks different from how we know them to be. The bigots make it so hard to have that conversation, though. I'll be this guy. I'll bet this guy doesn't care that Percy's supposed to have black hair. Do they think he's a blonde? Do they think he's a blonde diversity hire? No, of course not. But again, these people make it very difficult to have these conversations without them hijacking it and making it a woke thing. So I want to be clear about this. I don't have an issue on a fundamental level that Annabeth or any of the characters who have been race swapped have been race swapped. Not on a level of like, oh, they're replacing us or some bullshit like that. But on on what I would like to see as an adaptation, I would prefer these characters to look the way they did originally. However, there are a few reasons as to why this happens so often in adaptations. One is that when you have more diverse characters, it's easier to tell a story. It's easier for different people to relate to the characters, and just it makes for a more interesting story if characters look and act pretty diversely. The other thing about that is I've come to understand recently that when it comes to adaptations, you have to have a certain amount different from the source material, otherwise it's considered plagiarism. And that does include even though Rick Riordan wrote the book, you can still plagiarize your own work, which is absolutely insane to me. Plagiarism is a very weird thing to me in general, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, I understand why these things happen in adaptations, and while I would prefer it to be different, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to let it prevent me from enjoying the show or whatever media it is. And a lot of people are being disingenuous about this. However, I think it is a fair critique to say, I wish this thing looked more like it was originally supposed to. I think that's fair. But you have to be careful about that. Now, this was Rick Riordan's official response. Leah Jeffries is Annabeth Chase. This post is specifically for those who have a problem with the casting of Leah Jeffries as Annabeth Chase. It's a shame such posts need to be written, but they do. First, let me be clear, I'm speaking here only for myself. These thoughts are mine alone. They do not necessarily reflect or represent the opinions of any part of Disney, the TV show, the production team, or the Jeffries family. The response to the casting of Leah has been overwhelmingly positive and joyous, as it should be. Leah brings so much energy and enthusiasm to this role, so much of Annabeth's strength. She will be a role model for new generations of girls who will see in her the kind of hero they want to be. If you have a problem with this casting, however, take it up with me. You have no one else to blame. Whatever else you take from this post, we should be able to agree that bullying and harassing a child online is inexcusably wrong. As strong as Leah is, as much as we have discussed the potential for this kind of reaction and the intense pressure this role will bring, the negative comments she has received online are out of line. They need to stop now. So one thing that I want to be super clear on as well. You can take issue with these kind of things on a personal level and say, man, oh, that's a shame. Oh, well. I do wish it was this other way, but oh well. That's fine. That's what I do. But to go after somebody and harass them for something like this, that is absolutely insane. That is not okay. You can have your opinions and your preferences, and that's fine. But when that goes over the line of now you are attacking somebody else verbally or otherwise for something like this, that is where you've crossed a line. That is where it is completely uncalled for. There is no justification for that. It is absolutely insane. I was quite clear a year ago when we announced our first open casting that we would be following Disney's company policy in non-discrimination. We are committed to diverse, inclusive casting for every role. Please submit qualified performers without regard to disability, gender, race, and ethnicity, age, color, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other bias prohibited by law. We did that. The casting process was long, intense, massive, and exhaustive. Now, personally, this is, again, me on a personal note. I think that if you're going to do an adaptation, those things should matter. If a character was not depicted as gay or any other, like, whatever else it might be, right? Or if they were depicted as straight, like, or sorry, if they were depicted as gay or something else, you shouldn't change that either. Which, by the way, has been something that has changed for a lot of adaptations in general, where a lot of especially like ancient Greek characters and stuff who were bi or pan or whatever it might be would be changed to be straight because that's what was, socially acceptable at the time of making the product. However, I understand why they do this. I do think that the appearance of a character in media is important. And again, I would like the characters to be the way they're shown in the whatever they're being adapted from. But everything Rick Riordan is saying here is also absolutely spot on. I have been clear as the author that I was looking for the best actors to inhabit and bring to life the personalities of these characters, and what physical appearance was secondary, and that physical appearance was secondary for me. Now, again, I disagree with this because to me, the most important thing for a character is that they look the part, then that they act the part, and, well, that's really all there is to it. And for me, it's like hair color. I mean, yeah, hair color and skin color, because those are like the ones that stand out the most. But again, I get it. Now, again, I think it's fair, and I think we should be able to have these conversations of saying, like, you can be like annoyed about that, and you can say, okay, well, I would prefer it be this way, without having to jump to being a bigot about it. You know what I mean? I think that we should be able to do that. I have been clear as the author. Sorry. We did that. We took a year to do this process thoroughly and find the best of the best. This trio is the best. Leah Jeffries as Annabeth Chase. Some of you have apparently felt offended or exasperated when your objections are called out online as racist. But I'm not racist, you say. It is not racist to want an actor who is accurate to the book's description of the character. Let's examine that statement. You are upset, disappointed, frustrated, angry because a black actor has been cast to play a character who was described as white in the books. She doesn't look the way I always imagined. You either are not aware or have dismissed Leia's years of hard work honing her craft, her talent, her tenacity, her focus, her screen presence. You refuse to believe her selection could have been based on merit. Now, I do want to be clear about this. I don't believe that she was a diversity hire. While I disagree with the overall sentiment that, it doesn't matter what they look like as long as they act the part, I do disagree with that. I don't agree with the mentality that anytime this happens, it's a diversity hire. I don't agree with that. Without having seen her play the part, you have prejudged her. Pre and judge equals prejudice. And decided she must have been hired simply to fill a quota or tack a diversity box. And by the way, these criticisms have come from across the political spectrum, right and left. I mean, we can all, obviously know where most of it comes from. But yeah, there are people on the left like myself who, yeah, I take issue with it as well. But again, it's not some like political thing. For me, it's I do want them to look the way that they looked originally. You know what I mean? And again, I think that criticism is fair. But again, at the same time, everything that he's saying is spot on. And also, she's done a fantastic job in the show. I wouldn't go and say that I wouldn't say that, like, they should have cast someone else, or she doesn't do the part well, or anything like that. I will say any praise of it stays so true to the source material. for me personally, those points do it does lose points for that because her and Percy and all these characters don't look the way that they did in the book. Um, Again, Percy doesn't even have black hair, so like it's not. But at the same time, this is its own thing. The show is different from the book, and just like the book was different from the movie. Now, I do think there's also a fair argument and discussion to be made about, well, I thought staying true to the source material mattered, right? Why is it that only certain things matter and then certain things don't? Well, again, me trying to be consistent in everything, I think that yes, it is good and important to stay true to the source material and would prefer that, but again, it isn't the end of the world. I know I keep like restating basically my overall like kind of like take and everything, but I want it to be super clear where I stand on this type of thing. Okay. You've decided that I couldn't possibly mean what I have always said, that the true nature of the character lies in their personality. You feel I must have been coerced, brainwashed, bribed, threatened, whatever, or as a white male author never would have chosen a black actor for the part of this canonically white girl. So again, like this part, no, I think that's completely like I believe that he chose her because he thinks how she acts is the most important thing. And sure, that's fine. If that's what you're casting people on, that's great. For me, how characters look is very important as well. And maybe even slightly more important. I don't know. That's I might be kind of shallow with that, but that's just how I am. Um, but I think it's important to examine where that comes from. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Um, you refuse to believe me. The guy who wrote the books and created these characters. When I say that these actors are perfect for the roles because of the talent they bring and the way they used their auditions to expand, improve, and electrify the lines they were given. Once you see Leah as Annabeth, she will become exactly the way you imagine Annabeth, assuming you give her that chance. But you refuse to credit that this may be true. By the way, again, as far as giving her the chance, oh yeah, 100%. She definitely like plays the part of Annabeth extremely well. Like she does. She all of these characters. Well, I can't really say because I'm not familiar enough with the books, but from everything that I know, and especially have heard from other Percy Jackson fans, um, her and these other guys really do like embody the characters on an internal level. You are judging her appropriateness for this role solely and exclusively on how she looks. She's a black girl playing someone who was described in the books as white. Friends, that is racism. And before you resort to the old knee-jerk reaction, I'm not racist, let's examine that statement too. If I may quote from an excellent article in the Boston Globe about Dr. Kama Ennis, who created a program on implicit bias for the Massachusetts Board of Registration for Medicine in Boston, to say a person doesn't have bias is to say that a person isn't human. It's how we navigate the world, based on what we're taught and our own personal histories. I agree with this. Racism and colorism isn't something we have or don't have. I have it, you have it, we all do. And not just white people like me, all people. It's either something we recognize and try to work on, or it's something we deny. Saying I'm not racist is simply declaring that you deny your own biases and refuse to work on them. The core message of Percy Jackson always been, excuse me, the core message of Percy Jackson has always been that difference is strength. There is power in plurality. The things that distinguish us from one another are often our marks of individual greatness. You should never judge someone by how well they fit your perceived notions. That neurodivergent kid who has failed out of 6 schools, for instance, may well be the son of Poseidon. Anyone can be a hero. If you don't get that, if you're still upset about the casting of this marvelous trio, then it doesn't matter how many times you have read the books, you didn't learn anything from them. Watch the show or don't, that's your call, but this will be an adaptation that I am proud of and which fully honors the spirit of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. taking the bedtime story I told my son 20 years ago to make him feel better about being neurodivergent and improving on it so that kids all over the world can continue to see themselves as heroes at Camp Half-Blood. So, that is a very powerful message, a very powerful statement. And again, I don't agree with him exactly on his stance as far as a character doesn't need to look like the way they originally did. But it's his adaptation. He can do what he wants with it. Adaptations change things all the time. Whether you like them or not, it happens. While I would prefer everything to be an exact print to screen adaptation, and this is true for comics, for video game adaptations, for literally everything. While I would prefer that, that isn't how adaptations work. It just isn't. The closest I will get to experiencing the way the story was originally meant to be and these characters looking the way they were originally meant to look is going to be the comics. For me, this really is just an issue of these characters don't look the way they were originally depicted. And for me, that bugs me. But it doesn't stop at white person isn't being played by white person. It's blonde characters playing character that originally had black hair. Black characters playing character that originally had blonde hair. So on and so forth. Like, it's not just the race thing. And I think if you can be consistent about that and you can say, okay, yeah, this bugs me. I get that, and I'm with you. But what you can tell from these people is that they are not being consistent because they have issues with things like this, but they had no issue with this or this or hell, even this. So while I think that there should be an important discussion about appearances staying true to the source material, and I think that's a fair discussion to have, understand as well that there are people who will very much just use this as an excuse to push their bigoted white replacement bullshit kind of rhetoric. I've talked before about the kind of defending the representation argument, and my whole thing is, or race swapping in general, and my whole thing is basically that you know, it should be okay in adaptations for anybody of any race to play anybody of any race. If it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter, you know? I don't think there should be a double standard. You guys know how I feel about double standards. But you know, whereas, of course, I responded to this guy who basically said that it shouldn't matter, and basically that, like, race shouldn't kind of matter in general, and then anyway, it was a whole kind of back and forth we had. You're welcome to check out those videos, though. That one and this one. And I also defended and and will continue to defend many times the whole thing where people are like, Spider-Man or Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man. He is. He's a type of Spider-Man, just like there are many different things. But again, like, you have to be consistent with this stuff. If you want to, you know, look at something like this and say, and you take issue with it for like the reasons I laid out, I think that's valid, and I think people should be able to have that conversation without others kind of jumping down their throat and be like, "Oh, you're being a bigot, you're racist, you're da 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 da." But look at that consistency of how those people are arguing. Are they also, you know, are they stopping there, or are they also pointing out that, like, well, I also don't like that Percy's blonde, you know? Or did they have an issue with the fact that Annabeth was brunette in the first movie? No, because they didn't know. Because it's not about actually staying true to the source material. They're just using that as a cover-up for their bigotry. And I think that's, again, like I said in my response on Reddit there, it makes it really difficult for us to have these conversations because the bigots are always trying to hijack it and make it into a woke thing. But while I disagree with Rick Riordan's ultimate statement that basically it doesn't matter what these characters look like, If they embody the spirit of the character, that's fine. And that's a sentiment that people are more and more getting on board with these days, which, to each their own. If that's how you feel, that's fine. I disagree, but I also respect that opinion, and I respect the right for people to make adaptations of whatever it might be, even if that changes things that, it changes things in a way that I would not prefer. It's fine. Things are always going to change in adaptations. You can cry about it. You can be angry about it. You certainly shouldn't harass a fucking kid about it. Or you can look at it and say, okay, well, I would have preferred it be this way, but I'm going to go into this with an open mind and accept it for what it is. That's what I try to do. That's what I do. So, in any case, as he did say, and I do agree with his overall statement of Leah Jeffries is Annabeth Chase. These people here, these actors, I really think that this show is going to... Oh, what? Oh. I think this show is going to make these people blow up. This show is going to put these actors on the map. I mean, Percy was already in the Adam Project, and I don't know either of these people from anything else, but I think this show is going to do for them what Harry Potter did for Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, I want to say his last name is, although not much has really happened with Rupert from what but I don't think he even does acting anymore. I don't know, that's a whole other thing. But, no, yeah, as far as the show goes and all this stuff, these actors are incredible. They're doing a great job. I'm sure they'll continue to do a great job. And again, while I would prefer for the characters to look the way they were originally depicted, it's not the end of the world. And if you have an issue with that on a level of, well, I would have preferred that, I get that, but don't let that turn into this like ball of hatred, especially for the actors themselves. You know what I mean? And I want to be clear, I'm not saying even that like the kid needs to dye Walker Scoble, that he like needs to dye his hair black or anything. No, I'm not saying that. Nor am I saying that like Leah should dye her hair blonde or anything. Like, if these actors want to do this or anything, like, they're welcome to, but it's not necessary. That's not my point. My point is, it's okay to look at this and say, okay, well, I would prefer this, without going over that line and saying, now I'm going to hate on this and I'm going to hate anybody that likes it, and I'm going to say, well, that's not the real, like, whatever it is, right? And I'm also going to harass the people online who are making it. Like, what is wrong with you? Actually, insane, like, borderline sociopathic, just bullying. It's bullshit. So, again, I do think that these conversations should be able to be had without them being hijacked by bigots. I think there's, an important room for those conversations and for that discussion, for that debate to be had. It's just sad how often it gets hijacked like that. So, yeah, I don't really have, I guess, like a final thing on this. Just kind of, again, my thing is like, if you would prefer, if you're bummed when things don't look the way you like imagined them or they were originally depicted as, I get it, I'm with you, but adaptations are going to change things, and even if you don't like it, you got to learn to deal with it. Or, I mean, you don't like it, don't watch it. At the very least, don't fucking harass people who are making it. Like, that's just, again, that's insane. So, no, but it is a very, very good show overall. I'm looking forward to each new episode. The episode that just came out was the Lotus Casino episode. That's the one I've been looking forward to, and I'm very interested to see how that's going to be. And maybe if you guys are interested, I'll even like put a follow-up comment and tell you what I thought of the episode. I don't know. But in any case, as always, guys, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more, links in the description. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like, and if not, I hope you find something to do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.